Max Verstappen has made a statement drive in Brazil in what seems to be a death blow for Norris' hopes in the Drivers' Championship. And even with so many factors going in favour of the Brit, he still managed to fumble a P1 start and finish P6 thanks to the gifted position of Piastri. Be that as it may, with so much pressure from the FIA and the penalties given to him, as well as the questionable decisions throughout the entire weekend, has Verstappen proven why he's very likely a four-time world champion soon, and has Norris finally seen the true version of his fiercest rival? It goes without saying that Verstappen's win in Brazil was the most impressive drive that we've seen in 2024, and to be fair, even though he got lucky with the red flag that was caused by Colapinto as he crashed under safety car conditions, it was nonetheless poised to be a great weekend for the Dutchman. Waiting patiently and not rushing to pit under safety car conditions, both of the Alpine drivers as well as Verstappen got lucky as the Williams driver crashed his car and caused out the red flag. One out of many, but it was the most crucial one as Norris and Russell already pitted for fresh intermediate tyres. From here, it was a smooth glide to the win as Verstappen managed to take the win from the restart and get past Ocon, as we've seen that a lot of drivers have struggled with overtaking due to their low confidence in the braking zones with these changing conditions. But the rest of the grid are not named Max Verstappen. We're talking about the man who drove a masterclass when he was 18 years old back in 2016 at this same place and beat the then world champion Rosberg. So of course we wouldn't have expected anything less from him. Now, in the treacherous conditions that the drivers were forced to race, we cannot ignore the fact that Verstappen made up 7 places in 1 lap only. Yes, Stroll crashing the car in the formation lap, Sainz starting from the pit lane, and Albon not starting the race at all did of course help him in his quest to score points this weekend, but even he was surprised with the outcome, and sometimes you just have to thank the Formula gods for making things right after bringing decisions that were against Red Bull all weekend long. What's worth mentioning is that Verstappen has been aggravated by the FIA and the questionable decisions that have been brought throughout the entire weekend, starting with the virtual safety car that was called after McLaren's drivers swapped positions and Hulkenberg was already out of the car that was banked in the second sector, ending with the red flag in Q2 in early Sunday that came 40 seconds after Stroll crashed his car in the wall. The rest of the drivers that were ahead of Verstappen managed to finish their laps, and while he would have certainly been out of Q2, nevertheless, the decision was questionable to say the least. Verstappen himself has slammed it and has received support from all over the grid, as the steward, Johnny Herbert, who has nothing to do with this as it's controlled by the race director, will be under heavy scrutiny for how he treated the Dutchman in the past couple of races. But again, Verstappen managed to add a bunch of points to his lead against Norris, and now it's almost inevitable that he will be the world champion unless something very extraordinary happens in the last 3 races. As all things stand right now, Verstappen can secure the championship in Vegas if he leaves the weekend with a lead of 60 points, which would be possible in one scenario only: if he finishes ahead of Norris. That's literally all it takes for him to score the 4th championship in his career, a consecutive one, if we may add, and match Vettel's achievement with the Austrian team. In the team radio after the win, Verstappen went on to say, "Ah yes, what an unbelievable race, guys. You know what that is? Simply lovely. I tell you that, guys." This could be a slight dig towards Norris and the way he used his statement after winning on Verstappen's home turf in the Netherlands. But be that as it may, the Dutchman has shown that holding off Hamilton back in 2021 hasn't been thanks to the car only. The people who believed that the difference is in the car and not the driver have been definitely assured otherwise after this weekend. And now that the Drivers' Championship has taken a massive twist after the Brazilian GP, it will be interesting to see how Norris and McLaren will respond to the last 3 races of the calendar. On top of that, Verstappen became the first driver in Formula 1 history to win from 10 different grid positions, with the 17th now being the latest one added to the resume. Again, many would blame Colapinto for the way this race turned out, and they would be in the right. But sometimes you just have to play your cards and see what they bring you. Just look at what that did for Alpine. If they remain competitive, it would mean that this race solely would grant them $30 million in cash money because they jumped 3 positions in the Constructors' Championship, although it would be hard to keep Haas and Racing Bulls behind. If you are to look at the table now, Verstappen has a 62-point lead that Norris would have to overcome in a matter of 3 races and 1 sprint event. And unless something very crazy happens in which Verstappen doesn't get to finish the race or fails to score points in at least one event, then we can safely say that the fight for P2 between Norris and Leclerc would be much more interesting to watch than the championship one. The Brit only has a 24-point lead over the Monegasque driver, and if you're to finish third in a two-way championship fight, then you're obviously not mature enough to challenge a driver of Verstappen's caliber. You could see from Verstappen's reaction after the race win that he's the happiest man on earth right now. He hasn't stood on the top place of the podium for 10 races in a row, if we're to exclude the sprint races, and with Norris starting the race shedding 3 points from Verstappen's lead from the sprint race only, many believed that the Brit would have a walk in the park type of race where he would shed an additional 15 points from Max. That, of course, didn't happen at all, and right now McLaren have a lot of questions to answer, with the most important one being why Norris is just constantly bottling the race starts and how he failed to overtake Russell, who was arguably in the 4th or 5th fastest car in Brazil. Be that as it may, Red Bull as a team has a lot of other issues to deal with, and one of the most important ones is the second seat next to Verstappen. Yes, he did win in Brazil and it did mark one of the most important wins in his career, but he can't always hope for conditions like that. The cars that are superior in dry conditions are usually the ones that do poorly when the conditions are wet and the track is cold. So in 2025, Red Bull will definitely need a second strong driver in order to secure the Constructors' Championship, or at least be a lot more competitive in it. Right now, it looks like they're bound to finish third, and in case they do, they will be losing around £20 million in prize cash money, which would see a lot of employees lose out on bonuses or see their salaries reduced. This could potentially bring an uprising to the team that would further destabilise them, and that's literally the last thing that Red Bull needs right now when they are back in the fight in the Drivers' Championship. Quite frankly, Verstappen doesn't really have to do anything until the end of the season, just compete and make sure he's in the top 5 or 6 positions where he frequently finishes, and it's game over for Norris and the championship in general. Generally speaking, a lot of changes are coming in the last couple of races, and quite frankly, they are needed because from 2025 onwards, the competition will be very tight and it will be up to the driver's skills to extract the most out of the car. As we've seen in Brazil, Verstappen is definitely the man to put all of your trust in, but Tsunoda and Lawson have had a strong weekend as well, and in a race where Haas failed to score points, the RB duo finished 7th and 9th, edging closer for the P6 battle in the Constructors' Championship that has now seen Alpine as a contender all of a sudden after their amazing P2 and P3 finishes in Interlagos. With all this in mind, do you think that Verstappen made quite the statement in Brazil? And more importantly, do you think that he ended Norris' hopes of winning the championship in 2024? Is it all over for him? Let us know in the comments below, and if you're interested in the FIA's response to Verstappen's recent backlash, check out the video that's appearing on your screen right now.